March 1997. Millions of people raise their eyes to the sky. Above Earth glides one of the brightest comets of the 20th century, Hale-Bopp. For some it is a wonder of nature. For others, a photographic sensation. But for 39 people in California, it is a rescue ship. Because they believe that behind the light of the comet hides a UFO. And it came for them. That night they will make a decision that will shock the entire world. Before we get to the fact that this is one of the darkest pages in the history of modern astronomy. Belief in the spaceship behind Comet Hale-Bopp led to the largest mass suicide in U.S. history. Let's take a look at the Great Comet. Comet Hale-Bopp, known as the Great Comet of 1997, went down in history as one of the most spectacular astronomical objects of the 20th century. Here is why it was so exceptional. It was visible to the naked eye for a record 18.5 months from May 1996 to December 1997. This is twice as long as the previous record holder, the Great Comet of 1811. Its nucleus had a diameter estimated at 40 to 60 km. For comparison, the nucleus of the famous Halley's Comet is about 15 kilometers, and the object that led to the extinction of dinosaurs was probably 5 times smaller than Hale-Bopp. At the time of closest approach to the Sunday, April 1, 1997, it reached brightness -1.8 magnitude, making it brighter than almost any star in the sky except Sirius. It was visible even from heavily light-polluted cities. Most comets have 2 tails, dust and gas, but Hale-Bopp had a rare third sodium tail, visible with specialized instruments. Thanks to long visibility and the development of the Internet, it became probably the most watched comet in human history. The story of discovering this comet is almost cinematic. On July 23, 1995, 2 observers in the USA, unaware of each other, pointed their telescopes at the same point in the sky and noticed something that was not on the maps. Here is how it happened. Alan Hale, New Mexico. Although he was a professional astronomer, he made the discovery after hours on his driveway. He was waiting for another known comet to rise above the horizon, and out of boredom pointed his 41-centimeter telescope at the star cluster M70. He immediately noticed a blurry spot that he hadn't seen there a few weeks earlier. Thomas Bopp, Arizona. He was a typical amateur. That night he was camping with friends in the desert and using a borrowed, hand-built friend's telescope. When looking at the same cluster M70, he also spotted an unusual object. Race against time. Hale sent an email to the Central Bureau for Astronomical Telegrams (CBAT), and Bopp sent a traditional telegram via Western Union. Since both made the discovery almost in the same hour, the comet was named after them. This discovery was a shock to the scientific world, because the comet was then extremely far away, beyond Jupiter's orbit. The fact that it was so bright from such a distance heralded that when it approached the Sun, it would be a giant. When the comet became visible in 1997, the media reported sensational information about a possible accompanying object. Later it was explained that it was a star, but for Applewhite it didn't matter. He decided that the spaceship is behind the comet and came specifically for them. And he convinced others of that. But the story started much earlier. The Heaven's Gate sect was born in the 70s, when Marshall Applewhite met a mysterious woman, Bonnie Nettles, known in the group as T. Together they created a mixture of esotericism, elements of Christianity and belief in UFOs, preaching that they are messengers of a higher level of existence. They traveled across the United States, recruiting people with the promise of spiritual transformation and escape from the falling world. It was their duo, a charismatic preacher and a woman surrounded by the aura of a prophetess, that gave birth to one of the most famous sects of the late 20th century. After Nettles' death in 1985, Applewhite took full control of the movement. This event was a breakthrough. He had to explain anew why someone who was supposed to ascend to a higher dimension died of cancer. Ultimately, he announced that she had already advanced and operated from another level. The central tenet of the Heaven's Gate group was that man is not the final form. In March 1997, the group rented a large residence in Rancho Santa Fe, California. They lived there together, worked on computer projects, and at the same time intensively prepared for what their leader, Marshall Applewhite, called leaving the vehicles. They left behind a lot of materials. Video recordings with farewells, instructions for those who find the bodies, tidied personal belongings. In the recordings, many members seem calm, some even joyful. They said they had completed the lessons and were ready to move to the next level. Structure and daily life of the group. Life inside Heaven's Gate was highly regulated. Members wore similar hairstyles and clothes, used new names ending in "adi", worked together among others, created websites and did IT, were completely subordinate to Applewhite's orders. Celibacy was mandatory. Several men even chose voluntary castration to eliminate sexual drive, which was considered an obstacle to development. The group was isolated, but did not live primitively. It functioned efficiently, earned money, and used modern technology. Interpretation of Christianity and UFO. Heaven's Gate combined the Bible with cosmic fantasy. Jesus was, according to them, a representative of the same race from a higher level. The ascension they interpreted as boarding a ship. Resurrection meant receiving a new body. Apocalypse was the coming planet cleansing. Course of events. March 1997. Between March 22 and 26, members took their own lives in the rented residence in Rancho Santa Fe. According to investigative findings, it happened in stages, in several waves, probably over 3 days. The procedure was almost identical for everyone. People took a mixture of a strong sedative phenobarbital mixed with alcohol and lemonade. Then they lay on the beds. Plastic bags were placed over their heads to cause suffocation. Those who died earlier were then arranged by the survivors, neatly, with hands along the body. Purple cloths were placed on their faces. Everything looked more like a planned ceremony than a chaotic event. Why suicide made sense in their logic. In their belief system, body was only packaging. Staying on Earth meant destruction. Leaving the body equals boarding. They didn't treat it as death, but transformation. Farewell recordings show people calm, convinced they are making the best decision. On March 26, 1997, police received an anonymous tip that led to entering the house. Inside, 39 bodies were found. Among the victims were 21 women, 18 men. The group leader, Marshall Applewhite, was among them. It was then one of the most shocking collective suicides in United States history. Why did people believe it? Researchers point to several factors. Long-term isolation, strong leader authority, gradual shifting of boundaries of what seems normal, sense of uniqueness and elitism, promise of perfect life without suffering. They were not madmen. They were people who step by step accepted an increasingly radical vision of the world. What particularly moved public opinion? Not only the number of victims was shocking. The most striking was that many of them were educated, could function professionally, did not seem detached from reality. The group's website works to this day, maintained by sympathizers. Video materials left by Applewhite are analyzed by psychologists, religious scholars, and manipulation specialists. Heaven's Gate became one of the most famous examples of how a mixture of spirituality, technology, and charismatic leadership can lead to tragedy. And Comet Hale-Bopp passed our planet and continued on its cosmic orbit and will return near Earth in about 2,500 years, indifferent to the hopes, fears, and interpretations of people staring at the sky. In the villa in California, silence remained. Families had to face the loss. The world asked questions to which it is hard to find simple answers. And life. Life went on.